Here's the plinth in, getting levelled. Hayfully Integrato G feet for quick levelling. Just turn them with your fingers. Get those bubbles central. The downside is once the units go on, you can't adjust it like you would with black feet. So you want to make sure that when there's weight pulling down on these feet, they are sitting level. So see, I just fitted this bracket a couple of millimeters off the floor to be sure that when it pulls tight, there's a real downward pull, and I know that that is sitting rock solid as if there's weight on it. You've got to be careful if you're pushing this tight to the skirting, which is the method, just to avoid the extra work of removing the skirting and give you a bit of a clearance gap, just in case the wall kicks in at the top or something, so you're sure everything's just going to go in and not foul on the wall. Something to be aware of is if you end up just pushing it tight to the skirting, you want to make sure that skirting is dead straight. In this case it's not, it's got a bit of a bow on it, so the plinth fascia would end up following that bow if we left it like that. Not sure if you can see that there, but I've checked it, and to be dead straight it just needs to be a little bit forward, so I'm going to make sure that I'm fitting it like that. Some people using this method would put squaring pieces like corner triangles in a plinth like that. That's another option. I don't like to put them at the far corners because they can get in the way of accessing the feet. And just on that subject, the feet aren't right in the corner just because it's hard then to get this screw in. So what I will do is put some extra support blocks here, and that's a method I'll show with a photo next, of quickly getting an extra bit of support rather than fiddling around finding packers that fit the gap. For this project we're using vinyl wrap components, which we bought from East Coast Fittings, ECF. And here is a bit of an error because I'm sure I ordered two at 200mm wide. So this one is 200mm wide, but the second one, it's just come out of the box, is only 100mm. I think I can make it work though. So that's bang on 100. Save myself a bit of time and just go ahead and fit that 100mm strip without having to bother scribing the bottom of it. That leaves me with a 200mm strip from which to make these 3 scribes. Now I would have preferred to have an offcut of the plinth one because I like to have the finished vinyl edge on all the meeting edges, but what I'll do is I'll take the 200mm one, I'll rip this off one side, that off the other side, so I've got 2 finished edges where they just sit forward of the plinth there, and then I might just choose to set that back, whereas I'd often set it flush with the doors. I think I'll set it back so that the cut edge is concealed top and bottom. No need to waste time scribing that or even cutting it particularly accurately. As long as it flies a little bit beyond the width of the plinth and sits easily within the skirting, the side scribes will cover that and they will be scribed to the skirting. So now I just need to grip it flush to the top and drive some screws from the back, which I use Craig screws for because I don't have to pre-drill. They self-tap and self-cut very well and they grip very tight. So this is just going to be a backer piece for the scribe. So that's going to go here, and I've got a laser set up. Now that's done, it's on to assembling the carcasses. I've got all these parts, I had them cut to my plans, so they're cut on a beam saw, edged and CNC drilled, which is a method that I'm considering ditching, to be honest, because of all the planning time, drawing preparation and costs of drilling. I am thinking of moving back to just cutting and edging from the supplier without the drilling. So I'm assembling it face down and in a position where when it's heavy and all built, it's ready for me just to tip up and onto where it needs to go. So the back panel that's down there is just a work surface, which I thought I might as well use for the first one. I won't be able to for the second one. And then here are the conformat screws, pre-drilled in the face and the edge. I'm going to struggle with that without 2 hands, just getting that lined up, so I'll turn the camera off now. So that's all the shelves, tops and bottoms fixed. got top and bottom fixed to the sides. Now back panel on, so that's screwed down, and to make that quick and easy, we've had CNC cut these holes 3mm diameter just to guide the shank of the screw, but then they will just self tap into the chipboard. Now we normally use those black chipboard screws. I don't know why they're black, they're very squeaky as they go in, but they seem to just grip and sink in quite well. We hadn't checked and we've run out of them, so I just need screws that are not too fat and about 50mm long. Okay, so I should have got the right screws because they would have punched themselves in without this breakout that we're getting. So I've grabbed a countersinking bit and I've just gone around all the holes and countersunk them so that the screws are going in neater, holding tight without breaking the material. Yeah, that's better. Okay, a couple of issues there. For some reason, we've made this tolerance tighter than we normally do. That's only about 20mm. I normally make it at least 30, about 35mm as standard. Two reasons I normally do that. You saw one of those reasons, which was that as it's angling up, it was too high on the diagonal, sort of corner to corner, to back corner, so it caught. So I just had to shift it forward so that it was nearer to vertical by the time it was dropping onto the plinth. The 30 to 40mm tolerance usually avoids that problem. The other reason that we'd often do it that way is so that we can fit space plugs in. Yeah, you've probably seen these before. So you've got these two parts that go together, and they work in about 30mm or so. So that just means if I had left a gap of that size, I could have put a few of them in and secured it that way. Not quite sure why we didn't do it that way on this job, but it's gone in anyway. Now I'm packing that gap up to that filler strip. I've used some wood offcuts and some plastic packers. I'm going to pin that in place just to hold it, and then I'll drive a screw. So both these fixings will be covered by the hinge mounting plate. And I'll do the same at the top. We've been revising and improving our methods for wardrobes and always aiming to get them CNC made with a view to doing that in-house at some point in the future. I must say though, I really don't know if it's been worth it because we're still having issues. For example, we've experimented with these size 2 conformats. We've also used the size 3. We've done jobs with size 3 that are fatter, thinking they're stronger, but we found that the head rim just wouldn't pull flush. So we went back to the size 2. But I have been finding again that on some of them, I mean these have gone in, but on some of them the head's just stopping and then it's spinning out before it pulls in flush. So I'm having to grab my countersink and countersink it anyway, which is a bit of a waste of time when you've already paid to have holes drilled. I think one reason for that is that the holes that are pre-drilled into the edge, it's more of a manual process by the supplier. Oh no, I might be wrong about that actually, but it seems to be something that gets set up wrong somehow on the CNC, and I think maybe the depth of the holes just isn't as deep as it should be, so it's hitting the bottom of the hole and spinning out before it can pull in flush. So it's pretty annoying, we're still getting these kind of problems. Something else I wanted to say is that we've got into the habit of getting the back panel sized 1mm less in width than the unit, and when I assemble it I use it as a squaring device. So you might have seen I was pinning it on with a nail gun just to get it quickly fixed and square, so make sure that it's in line down one side and in line down a short side. So I get it flush to the side which is on the outside, knowing then that we're probably going to have about a 1mm step in on the other side, just to be absolutely sure that that doesn't fly over, which then stops it pulling really tight against the unit that it's going to end up fixed up against. Yeah, so you'll notice we've only pre-drilled for the mounting plates at top and bottom. It's just to save a little bit of drawing out and cost of drilling, because that's enough to locate the doors when they go in, and then we use the mounting plates themselves like jigs on the door to drill through to fix them. Same again over here, finding the right combination of wedges to pack that tight, and that means that it's wedged nicely right across the width. And I'll drive a screw through there under the mounting plate as well. Now onto the drawers. So we've settled on a standard method for drawers to avoid them conflicting with the doors. We're going to have a hinge here. We allow a 90mm setback from the front edge usually to any internal shelves or drawers. And that ensures that the hinges go on. You're not trying to plan around placing shelves and drawers and things in between hinges. You just know that they're going to sit back from the hinge, but they also of course need to sit in the hinge, from the hinge, because when that's there the drawer needs to pass it as it opens without catching it. So the way we've done that, just to give enough clearance and to make it quite tidy and easy to make, is we use an 18mm packer and another one at the back which will just be brown MDF because you'll never see it, and then your panel fitted in. It's quite tight, so I'll work that in a bit, but that's going to sit tight against there. I'll work that in when I've got the two hands. And that's been pre-drilled, CNC, same as that one. That one doesn't need a spacer because that's just a divider with no doors hinging off it. The drawers that we use, we have a standard method, 15mm birch plywood, 6mm bases grooved in, Movento runners, so those are the locking mechanisms that clip to the front of the Movento runners. And we've settled on a standard method where we skip notching the front, we just notch the back so that the drawers can be used without a front. And you may query seeing the edge of the MDF. It's an option we give the customer Slightly cheaper than putting a frontage on it, but it means we've standardised a method that can be used as an internal drawer, but you could also put a frontage onto it. And we find that you do get plenty of strength with these screws going into that 15 millimeters. The standard depth we do the carcasses at is 570 internal. Sort of a historical reason for that, because that's a standard cut and edge width of melamine board you can buy off the shelf from Hill's Panel Products, HPP, that I used to use. I stopped using them because the quality of the edging really went down. I had some issues because that's just a standard, I think it's 0.2, 0.3 millimeter melamine edging they put on, but we now use a 0.8 millimeter standard ABS, and we get a much better finish and a better service we've been finding from Chris. I've now hit upon a problem. We've only got 2 of these drilled inset dividers when there should be a third. And I've checked the van, and I know that everything that came from the delivery went in the van. I could go trawling through emails and exactly what was ordered, but I just need to get the job done. So I've got to think to myself, do I delay the job, come back, inconvenience the customer and lose a bit of money, or do I just find another way? And I've decided, because what we're missing is the panel that should go there, which would be a mirror image of that. I've offered this up, and I'm thinking, well, I can get the fixings into this piece, and I can position another piece there. Only thing is I have to double them up because I'm missing that piece. But I have this offcut, if you remember the offcut from the plinth, which is long enough so I can double that up at the front, so I get my white edge, and I can find some scrap from the van to double that one up where you're never going to see it anyway, and still get the right spacing, still get the fixings in. I'll just have to mark them off, which is no big deal, and everything will look and work just fine. So that's fitted that side, and I've got my bulked up arrangement with offcuts. And the easiest way just to mark that off is to offer it up. Just find the centre of the hole, which you could do by just bringing it right to the edge, and then I'll pencil mark that when I've got 2 hands, and then I can square that across the face, across there. Same further up, and I'll just offer the draw runners up to it then, get the setback correct, and we'll be able to fix the draw runners that way. So here are the Movento runners ready to go in. Euro screws. They go into 5mm holes. The bottom one we position so it's pretty much sitting on the bottom. Easier to fit then, especially when you're holding a camera. That gets a good grip. And these are the recommended hole positions for this runner. I suppose you have spares in case one strips or whatever. This isn't how it would look as standard with a normal draw. It would normally come almost to the front, just 2mm back. But because we do it in a non-standard way, leaving that 15mm material before the fixing clip, this is the position that we set it up for. Now all this drilling we've set up in SketchUp using the Cabinet Sense plugin, which does mean that we can design things to any size. We can just drop drawers in, we can have any width unit, any number or height of drawers, and it's all parametric and it plots the drilling. So that is the benefit of all the time we've spent setting it up for CNC output. But it does just have its downside. Sometimes there's a trade-off. It seems really efficient, but you have issues that sometimes are best resolved by doing things manually on site. Now that the runners are fixed, you just have to bring them forward. Get your draw box ready. You'll notice that there are holes drilled according to the instructions for the particular runner. Those holes engage into these tabs and just poke into them. The way this draw system works is the draw sits on the runners, but it's floating. There's adjustment in the brackets, like side to side, up and down. So particularly when you've got a drawer front, you can just tweak the whole thing to get your gaps right. And there's adjustment here as well. So each of these is slightly different. You've got a side to side one. Let's just see, so I always forget this. You turn this, you have to do it before the drawer goes on. Yeah, that's your side to side. So that can sort of rotate the drawer a little bit like that. And this one, with this little squeezy thing here, will move up and down. So if you get your head around it, you've got all sorts of three-dimensional rotation and movement options that will allow you to get the drawer exactly in position. So these runners, they're quite a lot more expensive than simpler types, but they help the fitter to get things just right with adjustment, and they also have soft close built in, soft close and self close for a smooth closing action. So let's get the drawer box onto it, see if I can do it one-handed. Just get the edges over there. It helps to get it fairly close. Good shove to make sure it's well clipped in. And that's as it should be. Nice closing action. Now this undermount style of runner also allows you to get pretty tight gaps to the sides there because the mechanism is tucked underneath the drawer box. So here's the next problem. We've been sent 2 right hands instead of a pair, which leaves me pretty stuck, and we don't have them in stock. Now with fitting these, what I've done is I've put my height line across, centre line of the holes. I've put a mark for one of the screws so I can then fix that, and I'm just using normal screws but 30 mils, so they go through double the material. Fix that where it should be. Once that's fixed, I can just spin that up, find it, centre it on the hole, and drive more screws through nice and quick. Next thing is the wardrobe rails. Now we've cut them in the workshop with the Evolution saw based on the CAD model, and we just got a formula for internal width minus the combined thickness of these plates, which I think is 7. I think we're over 7 mil-ish to fit tight. Well, I've threaded my central support onto this long one. I've fitted these brackets just with that bottom screw. We did get these sort of pinhole drilled with CNC, and so that's tight to there. So I thought we might be using thicker plates now that are just a bit too tight. That is tight, but it's going in. So then what I usually find is you can just twist that, there's enough bend on that will then go upright. And then screw it up to here, and I've just whipped out the tape measure and checked that it's roughly central, and these can just self-tap through here.